The object of this briefing is just to update on the status of bulk water provision in our area of operations. In essence, the entire Gauteng, parts of Mpumalanga, parts of Free State, and parts of Northwest, insofar as the amount of water that we have purified, abstracted, and pumped and supplied in our area of operation. How much have we stored and how much have we supplied? Where has the most of the water gone to? And also share with you as a collective. By collective, I mean the work that we do with our municipalities on a daily basis at 8 o'clock sharp. Some of the progress that we have made to deal with some of the challenges in our area of operation, particularly in the metros. The COO will then, as soon as I sit, give the updates in terms of the actual volumes accordingly. But before he does that, I just also want to take this opportunity to share with those I still get questions of people not understanding what Rainwater does, where do we start, where do we end, and how do we interface with our municipalities, and how do we work together? Because, as you know, although we are responsible for that, if you like, the middle tier of the value chain, the department is responsible for the top tier, and the municipality the lower tier of the distribution network. But it is a system that has got interdependencies, and that is why I need to emphasize that on a daily basis we meet and look at where the challenges are and how do we collectively resolve them. So Rainwater really, in the middle tier of the value chain, we buy water from the Department of Water and Sanitation. We abstract it from the integrated Vaal River system, specifically from the Vaal Dam. That relationship is regulated by what we call a water use license. That license provides for us to abstract maximum 1,347 million cubic meters per annum, 1,347. We are currently abstracting 1,680 million cubic meters per annum. So at this point in time, we are over abstracting from the catchment. And as we have known, it has been clarified by the Department of Water and Sanitation, led by our DG. It will be irresponsible for them to give us an additional abstraction at this point in time, until such time the sort of phase 2 comes in, and until such time that our municipalities and ourselves in the mid and the lower part, mainly of the value chain, we deal with water use efficiencies. So I think the first thing that we need to understand is from our side, we are abstracting as much as possible, and even beyond what we are allocated. So it is a matter, therefore, as indicated by our department, that we need to work long and hard with our municipalities for them to reduce the non-revenue water in that space. And to that effect, as part of this solution, together with our municipalities, we have what we call Project 1600 to work long and hard in that space. After we abstract water, we purify it at Vereeniging Purification Works and Zekerbosch Purification Works. At this point in time, we are averaging at about 5,000 megaliters of water a day, 5 billion liters of water a day that we put into the system to all our 17, 18 municipalities that we currently have. I always get asked this question, then what is the problem if the water is enough? Yes, the water, it is enough. But as I indicated, in terms of what has been highlighted by the Department of Water and Sanitation, no drop report, water use efficiencies have to be attended to. And as I indicated, that Project 1600 is intended to do so. So when we have high consumption during high peak demands, and then we have non-revenue water, then you start seeing some of the areas in high-lying areas being affected. So in the medium and long term, starting with now, there needs to be a whole host of investments to deal with non-revenue water. Our municipalities, as I indicate, they are attending to that. Our view is that there should be an additional allocation to deal with this so that we can have a long-term solution in the value chain. In the short term, as at now, what we do, we have daily meetings with our metros. The department attends at operational level. We look at the system yield in terms of the volumes that we're putting into the system, and work out modalities in terms of how that water should be equitably shared, so that we don't have one area taking more than the other and the other suffering beyond the average consumptions that they need to. So I think right up front, I just need to dispel this notion that we are not working together. And certainly, I can only speak for the people that come to JOC, that without fail, we have people that are coming in the morning, in the early morning meetings at 8 o'clock sharp to work out the water distribution in the system. Of course, we have no control of who says what outside those meetings. I also need to indicate that we also have open and various engagements with various stakeholders. People have indicated from NGOs that they want to partner and work with us in the entire value chain to deal with the water supply challenges. We have opened our doors, and in recent times, and some of them have joined online. We have had AfriForum engaging with us, a group of expertise, and then other NGOs as well coming through to work with us to deal with these challenges. So we are working and have open doors. If there's anybody that wants to have an engagement with us, we are more than happy to not only engage, but take them on site, so that all these numbers that we are talking about, they physically see our operations to that effect. I also frequently get the issues and the questions around the upgrades, the maintenance. Are you maintaining? Yes, we are. You'll see in some of the reservoirs, they are out for maintenance. We'll continue to do so. And indeed, because we don't run a perfect system, we have to clean our filter houses, our filter rooms, and our filter sands, and all those things that we do consistently. Just in terms of the year, but we're going to be closing. When I have a press conference, a media briefing, you'll see that from our side, we are spending north of 300 million just on repairs and maintenance, let alone the renewable projects that we are busy with and continue to be busy with. So we are maintaining, and beyond repairs and maintenance, as I say, we have renewable program and capex in the next 5 years of about 34 billion. Included in that is to renew our system. Yes, we are upgrading, as I indicated, extensive coverage of the reservoirs that we launch. The recent one being in Vlakfontein, 210 megaliters of water a day. We have additional reservoirs that are coming in 2028. And in terms of the new purification plant of 600 megaliters of water a day, we have already are purifying an additional 150 million liters of water a day in the Zeikerbos system 5A. In the next 20 months or so, we're going to add another 450 to complete the 600 megaliters of water a day. So really at a high level, this is how we function, who we are, and how we interface with our municipalities. In case I don't get time, I just want to thank all the stakeholders that have been positively engaged in rainwater, that have been wanting to come to our plans, that wanting to have meetings, bring a whole host of expertise to see if there's an area of improvement. But CEO, I think under your leadership, I just wanted to thank you and our colleagues in the municipalities that make time on a daily basis to look at the entire value chain and see how do we equitably share the water that we're putting in the system. Thank you. I'll hand over to you, Ndodimehlo, our Chief Operations Officer, just to share with you the details, numbers, insofar as improvements that we've made between this week and last week. Thank you.
Thank you, CE. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Again, my name is Mahlomo Lamehlo. Please do excuse my voice. I've got a bit of flu this morning. I'm going to try and be as loud as I can so that the message can be captured. I think, again, we're just going to share, as the CE already outlined, the performance of the system across the value chain. In the past week, you would have noticed that we had a bit of cooler weather. We had some rain in parts of Johannesburg, Tshwane, which was a bit of good news. So getting straight into it, just in terms of the rainwater system, a quick reminder that we are a bulk water services provider, which means, as the CE already outlined, we abstract, we purify water, and we distribute in bulk. And by and large, that is the end of our business. The municipalities and other customers have then got a responsibility to take that water and reticulate it. And how they reticulate really depends on their infrastructure. I've tried to capture that message with this schematic here, ladies and gentlemen. You've got in any area, number of suburbs, you've got industries. So you've got a number of water users, and therefore the municipalities distribute this water in line with the use. And they themselves have got also an obligation then to make sure that the water is distributed into those areas. We do not, I repeat, we do not have eyes on how they reticulate. We do not have any authority. It's strictly the business of the metros to reticulate the water. You would recall this slide. Last week, we were showing a very disturbing picture of a downward trend. This is in terms of our storage. Just by way of recapping this busy schematic here, the red line here talks to our storage as rainwater and rainwater alone, to the exclusion of our metros. And you would also recall that I had indicated that we would want to have this red line making its way all the way up to be between 60 and 80. And as you can see, it has started to pick up, which is obviously good news. And if it continues in this trajectory, it's also going to mean that we also would want to take some of our equipment for maintenance. But as we do that, the customers will not feel it. Unlike now, if we take any component of our infrastructure out for maintenance, that would mean an automatic supply disruption. And as we explained, some of the reticulation systems rely on our head, they rely on our pressure, and therefore we're not able to necessarily take out any of our infrastructure out. The CE did highlight the fact that we do maintenance, especially the cleaning of our reservoirs, because that also speaks to the statutory inspection that is actually required by the Dam Safety Act. And as you can see here, we are highlighting those reservoirs that are out of commission, that are being cleaned, that are being inspected. And as soon as those are cleaned and inspected, we bring them back into operation. Now, the question is going to be, as you take out a particular reservoir, does that mean there is a supply interruption? No. We've got reservoir complexes in a number of these systems, which means if we take one out, we still have two other or three other that take over. In instances where there is no complex, we use bypasses, which means we pump directly into a particular metro. And you will see later on in the slides, ladies and gentlemen, what has been the consumption in the metros. Up here, the yellow line, again, we're talking to the water that we pump, that we produce. As you can see, we are still around 5,000 megaliters per day. And we are putting in the system in the order of 4,500, 4,600, up to 4,800, depending on the consumption. If we move right along, I'm just going to go now straight into the consumption over the past week. last week when we were here, this is the consumption pattern that one was showing. And as you can see now, between the 23rd and the 30th, we are again back to a downward trajectory. So we're not there yet. It's obviously a fluctuating trajectory, because as we try and load shift, some areas will consume a lot more and some will drop the consumption. And that is the sort of balance that we try to achieve with the daily morning meetings that we have. We are not relenting. We're still working with our partners in the metros, and we are looking at solutions to continue bringing this consumption down. But we can mention that. Yeah. So here you're looking at a figure, the red line. Really, this is where we want to be. We want the city of Johannesburg, as an example, to be consuming around 1,493 megaliters per day. And as we indicated last week, they have been managing to do so. We were hit by a hotter period, and that's why the consumption shot up. But as you can see, again, the trajectory is promising to take us back downwards. By last week, we were looking at 1,670 million liters per day. And by the end of this week, it has dropped to 1,654. Just by way of referencing our week, we take weekly readings. We take readings on a Monday. We compute them in the evening, and then we have the results readily available for analysis on a Tuesday. And this is what we share with our counterparts in the metros every Tuesday, so that we can take stock of what has actually gone right and what still needs to be developed in terms of the interventions. Again, just the last point that I want to make with respect to the city of Johannesburg, as at this morning, in fact, as at yesterday, throughout the week last week, they had two areas in particular that had supply interruptions. One is South Hills, that has been widely reported on. I can confirm that Johannesburg Water has been pumping to South Hills. They are receiving water as at this morning, and the tower is sitting pretty in the 70s, which means City of Johannesburg does not necessarily anticipate any issues there. The other area was in the Brixton system, which again this morning they have reported a recovery, which we will be monitoring throughout the day into the meeting of tomorrow morning. So by and large, those were the two problematic areas which have since recovered as at this morning. If we go to City of Ekurhuleni, similarly, you can see the trajectory. By last week, it was already showing that it's going in the wrong direction. And unfortunately, by Tuesday, we were talking now an upward trajectory. Again, we have agreed on 813 million liters per day as the targeted consumption. And you can see they've been doing pretty well until we were hit by the hotter periods. And the efforts, throughout these meetings are also showing in the downwards trajectory. And of course, here and there, we will have these upward trajectories, which everybody is aware of. And there are interventions that I'll speak to later on to try and keep that consumption low. Equally and similarly, Ekurhuleni is also working very hard. They closing at night. There are systems that have been closed. They opening in the morning, and this is all part of the load shifting strategy that we've been talking to. That Johannesburg Water is also doing quite well, and Ekurhuleni. And despite these upward trajectories which signal high consumption, at least as we are seated here, all their areas have water. Our historically problematic areas, your Tsakanes and your Etwatwas, all those areas actually do have water. If I move on to the City of Tshwane, again, let me start by confirming that City of Tshwane, all the areas do have water. The system in Tshwane is healthy. That is the status as at this morning that has been reported. We don't necessarily have any bulk water related issues. And ladies and gentlemen, I need to just explain this, because you will have incidents here and there, but that does not necessarily mean that that is an incident related to a bulk water. If, for instance, at a household level, does not have water because of a certain meter that has been closed. That is not bulk. If there is a pipe that has burst in a particular area that the metro or a customer is busy attending to, that is not bulk. That is what we call localized issues as a result of operating a live network. This network is live. Our network is live. The network of metros are also very much live. So at any given time, you may experience a burst, you may experience a valve that fails, but then when that is reported, because we've seen when journalists go around in these communities, there is that particular individual who will just say, but I don't have water. What are they talking about? So the first question you should ask is, have you reported this to the municipality? What has been the response? Because some of those are localized. And if you think everything is bulk, that's where we're losing the messaging. So I think with Tshwane also, very good efforts. You can see there a sharp decline from last week. We want them to be at 620. By end of last week, they were at 668. Obviously, still not there yet. And unfortunately, by this week, a slight increase. But again, all the metros have shared with us the plans in terms of what they will be doing in their reticulation. We continue to identify systems that can be that are identified for load shifting. And that is exactly what we then do. That is why, as we are sitting here, we can report that all three metros have got water, and largely and partly thanks to those interventions of people that go out at night to close certain systems. They go out in the morning to open those systems, and that is going to continue, ladies and gentlemen, until all the systems would have stabilized and everybody and has water. In terms of all metros combined, you can see there that we are a little bit on the upward trajectory. We need to really bring this graph back down to this red line. And ultimately, with the efficiencies, with the talks of plugging the leaks, with the talk of reducing wastage, we should be operating closer to this green line. And that's where the efforts of programs such as 1600 that we spoke to last week are really geared towards making sure that we come down to this green line. Ladies and gentlemen, here we're just showing in terms of the various metros, you have high consuming areas, and we normally see those areas through their metering, the consumption that is registered by those meters. And we just take the top 10 meters per metro just to indicate the movement that I spoke about. Some areas continuing to take more, others dropping, and it becomes, a daily exercise to make sure that we balance the system. So if we start with Ekurhuleni, you can see there the red figures from last week in Impala Park. We were seated at around 27.3. By the end of this week, it has gone up to about 28. And we have indicated for all the top 10 meters for all the metros, which meters have actually gone up and which meters have actually dropped. And that is why we still see that on average, when you average this, it still results into an upward trajectory or a higher consumption as compared to last week. Here we are showing the rainwater systems. We've taken from last week when we met, this week quite a few days up to yesterday. And again, here you will see that by and large, the rainwater systems, in terms of the critical reservoirs and the critical infrastructure, we're making good recovery. Remember, this speaks to the earlier slide that shows that red line going upward. And you can clearly see it here with all these green lines. As you compare these figures in this column of the 24th of October, if you compare it to the figures in the 2nd of November, you will see that all of them are in the upward trajectory. This one, Bronbeck, has dropped. However, at 46%, it's still very healthy. So even though it has dropped, that's why I've highlighted that in red to show that it has dropped. But operationally, it still signals a very healthy systems. This is one of the systems that don't necessarily give us problems, and we don't want to operate them higher than is actually necessary. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, the more we pump, the more the energy is consumed, and where we can actually give our pumps a breather, we actually do so and seize the opportunity to do so. The CE spoke about the JOC meetings, the daily meetings that we have with the metros. We thought this morning we would like to acknowledge the efforts really from the colleagues. The JOC is led by Rand Water. From our side, I lead the team. I do have operations colleagues from engineering as well as operations led by the GMs. We also have from communications, the two ladies seated over there, the GM communications and our spokesperson, just to make sure that whatever is discussed technically has to be communicated accurately. So we roped in the communications teams from all the parties that attend these meetings. We also have an attendance from the Department of Water and Sanitation led by the provincial head, Ndate Maluleke. He is also flanked by one or two of his office staff, as well as the comms. From City of Johannesburg, we've got a team that is led by Ndate Mzake Mtsweni. He is there every morning religiously. He also leads a team of comms people from a technical point of view from City of Johannesburg. Most of the time he is alone. We used to have another gentleman, Mr. Logan Munsami, but he is no longer attending those meetings. So we now have Ndate Mzake Mtsweni, who is there and who obviously has got the latest in terms of what we are discussing in terms of the interventions and the plans, for the day. From City of Ekurhuleni, we've got Miss Mbali Matiwani. She also is flanked by the her comms team, just to make sure that we don't lose the messages after the meetings. From Tshwane, we've got Ntate David Ntsuwe. He also has his technical team, Ntate Tima Auskagiso, and in addition to that, they also have their comms team. So we mention in this, ladies and gentlemen, just to show that in as much as the technical teams meet in the morning, discuss technical issues, look at the challenges, go and look for solutions jointly without pointing fingers or blaming anyone. These are the people that are responsible for those solutions, both in terms of thinking about them, but as well as implementing those solutions. And then we make sure that the comms team will then go and communicate when necessary. We do not necessarily have to communicate everything. As I've indicated, some of the issues are localized, and this platform discusses the bulk system. These metros have got their own bulk as well, as much as we are bulk. So when you've got localized issues, this platform is not necessarily for that. So these are the people really, if you need to get more information in these areas, that we would really plead that you engage with so that you get the most accurate and the latest information. I think this slide probably is my last slide, CE. We are just highlighting by yesterday when, in fact, 2 days ago, when the presentation was being put together, we wanted to go specifically into the metros where there are issues and start to talk about the solutions themselves. If you look at City of Johannesburg, Joburg Water, as of 2 days ago, there were still issues in South Hills, but I have just reported that South Hills is receiving water. They are pumping, the tower is sitting in the 70s. And I had also mentioned some areas in the Brixton area, which, as I indicated as at this morning, those issues have also been attended to. If you look at Tshwane, by and large, there were no issues. And again, here we're just pointing to the fact that there are localized issues here and there, which have got nothing to do with bulk, which are a local network issue. And as I said, we do not necessarily get into the details, but colleagues will just from time to time tell us that we've got a problem with a pump station there that has tripped, or we've got a problem with a pipe that has burst. We are attending to it. Absolutely nothing to do with the bulk. Similarly and equally, City of Ekurhuleni, no issues. They are just localized issues, which the maintenance teams in these metros are dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. From Rand Water, again, no issues. We also do maintenance and repairs. So if we do interventions, it's purely from a maintenance point of view. The CE did speak about our maintenance program, ladies and gentlemen. We are very, very focused on this maintenance program because we understand that if we do not maintain this infrastructure, it will take itself out. And we do not want to end up where infrastructure starts to take itself out, because then we're not in control. So we want to remain in control of our infrastructure, by making sure that we've got our proactive and predictive maintenance scheduled in advance. And that's why we issue shutdown notices where we need to be making certain connections, where we need to be repairing some of the infrastructure. And this is also often confused with unplanned interruptions. When we talk about maintenance, unplanned interruptions are not necessarily maintenance, they are breakdowns. Although maintenance and asset managers will tell you that it's actually on the lower end of the value chain of maintenance. After your predictive and proactive, you still have these breakdowns. So we do not want breakdowns. And therefore, when breakdowns happen, the best thing to do is to immediately attend to a breakdown. And therefore, your communication is immediate. It's a phone call, it's a text message. It's not a formalized reporting mechanism. That will follow. Reports to talk about a breakdown, that happens later. The focus whenever there is a breakdown is on attending to a breakdown and just at least getting online with a counterpart in a particular metro to say, please note that we've had a power outage in this area. We've called the people who are relevant. They are on their way, and therefore we will update each other accordingly. So I just thought, let me make that distinction extremely clear, because the issue of communication often comes back, but it's talking to breakdowns more than anything. So with respect to the solutions, these are and I'll just speak to the city of Johannesburg. As I indicated, other metros, there were no issues really. So in addition to the daily discussions, looking at the load shifting, looking at the plans and all of that, we then specifically cast our eyes on the two areas that had been problematic for a while. And we then jointly said with City of Johannesburg, how do we begin to boost water into those areas? And here we were just indicating that one of the interventions that City of Johannesburg, that Mzaki and the team, they do without fail, is to identify systems that have got a lot of water, close those systems at night, because remember, at night, the consumption should ordinarily be low. Most of the people are sleeping. Nobody should be using water ideally. So we then close those systems, and then we allow that water to be shifted from that particular system to another system. The other intervention that we spoke of was to say there is a particular area in the city of Johannesburg called the Brixton Crosby Hest Hill system that I can tell you for a fact that City of Johannesburg have got projects that are earmarked to boost that system. They are building reservoirs. They're also building booster stations. But in the meantime, because we cannot wait for those projects to be completed, whilst they are undertaking those projects and completing them, we said, how do we boost that system so that at least there's water flowing into that area? And I think these are the two initiatives, ladies and gentlemen, that led to what I reported earlier on those two areas recovering. Thank you so much.
Thank you, COO, and thank you, CE. Ladies and gentlemen, you've had the presentation and the opening from our CE setting the scene. We've heard about the weekly consumption of the 3 metros, the state of bulk water supply in our operations, and the critical reservoir levels. And lastly, COO spoke about the solutions and interventions. We can go to the Q&A session. Maybe let's start with the reporters and journalists who are here physically. Once we have done the first round of questions, and then we'll go to colleagues and journalists who are joining us virtually. Can we get the mics and see if there are any questions? Thank you. Please introduce yourself and you will get a mic. There is a mic. Okay. Thank you. We do have a question from Bafedile, I think.
Morning, my name is Bafedile Moerane from ESCA. On Wednesday, I attended a press briefing done by Joburg Water, where they are saying that insufficient water supply from you as a supplier, Rand Water, is one of their main challenges. Can you please explain to us why is that so? Do we have water problems in the country? Because at this point, residents are really worried because they're saying that this is a blame game. Rainwater will be blaming Joburg Water blaming Rainwater. What is the issue? And also the second one is that, do we have any financial problems as Rainwater leading to the situation where we find ourselves into at this point?
Okay. Thank you, Bafedile. Can we come to the front? We have Peter here, and then after Peter, it will be you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's Peter Malamani, Fire News. COO, CEO. I just got some goosebumps when you both say no issues so far. The systems are improving. That's good news indeed. That's good news. But my concern has been that you are losing a lot of water on a daily basis due to pipe burst, leakages. That's not your issue. This is the municipality's issue. How are you addressing or working with the municipalities to address this issue? I might be wrong, but 40% of the 100% of the water that you pump on a daily basis is lost to the leakages. But also, secondly, what is the projection for December? December is a very important month for everyone. We want water, like it or not. We need water because we'll be at our homes. What is the projection? How is it looking? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Lunga from the Citizen. I have a few questions. Look, on Wednesday, the Johannesburg municipality, the council basically approved a resolution where they are saying that the Johannesburg Water will now be empowered to go and look for water in wells, springs, and underground water. As Rainwater, do you think that's actually a solution that can ease the pressure on the municipalities and on yourselves to actually supplying water in Johannesburg? Secondly, we've heard that municipalities and Rainwater as well, even the ministers blamed the issue of summer to say because now it's summer, people consume much more water and the struggles with issues of giving water. But summer is not a surprise. Why do you act surprised? Summer is here. You know that it's going to be summer. So why is it that the excuse seems to be now it's too hot and people are consuming too much water, so we can't provide them? And the third one would be, we know the financial constraints of these municipalities. Is the money issue, or is them not paying this money leading to these challenges that we see now? Instead of we look at saying it's heat. I mean, on Tuesday, the people were protesting outside the council seating, showing that they don't have water. So why is it that is there something you're hiding and saying these municipalities don't pay us and therefore we can't be providing water? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lunga. CE, I'm gonna ask that we respond to the questions. We had questions from Bafedile, ENCA, from Peter, KFM, and from Lunga, working for the Citizen. Can I request that you come? Thank you.
Bafedile, I also saw that interview. And that in that media briefing, of course, it got me worried. As we speak, the city of Joburg, it's currently taking about 1,654 megaliters of water a day against the 1,500. So I think most of the water goes to to the city of Johannesburg as we speak, by and large, in our area of operations. So if you take that 5,000, 77% of that goes to metros, and the lion's share goes to the city of Johannesburg, and more than the agreed numbers. I think my advice, so that it's not seen as a blame game. What we do on a daily basis, and it would be nice that people that come to meetings are the ones that articulate the issues. My advice is for those that are indicating that they have a supply or insufficient pressure in any of their system, to come to early morning meetings, to put those on the table and work as a collective, because there are interdependencies in the system, and work with the team and the colleagues from other metros to have a perfect understanding of how do we assist you in an area of low pressure. Because certainly, if there's an area of low pressure in the city of Johannesburg, and most of the water goes to the city of Johannesburg, I think early morning meetings are meant to do that, to say, where can we claw back to bring water into the central point, then to distribute that water in those areas of insufficient pressure, which I think the gentleman indicated that they are experiencing it in that area. And it is the very same area, COO, where I know for sure the city is intervening. Is a commando system. The city is intervening, building additional booster stations and additional reservoirs, so that when the consumption increase beyond the average consumption in one area, they are able to deal with that. So as far as I'm concerned, the city has acknowledged that there's a need to build additional capacity in that area, and they're working long and hard at it. So I think what is the solution going forward is to ensure that people come to early morning meetings to indicate and raise these issues, so that as a collective, that area is attended to. Because really this water is shared. It's shared with all municipalities. And there are independencies. We cannot look at the system in isolation. We have to look at the system in total and make sure that that water, which I still say it's enough to go about everybody, it's equitably shared, and if there are inefficiencies in one area, we are able to, as it has been indicated, to load shift. So I think that comment was made specifically in one system, and in fact, I was slightly surprised, and I really would want, and I think Zake has dealt with that, and we'll probably deal with that in the early morning meetings, to make sure that we distribute water equitably. Because, I mean, if there's an area that is grappling, you need to come to the forth so that we can have an understanding and work it out together, where we get the water in that area. So yes, I think that's how I will deal with that. And then as soon as I heard it on tele, I raised it, and it has been attacked and dealt with accordingly at various platforms. I need to indicate, Bafedile, that we will continue to work very closely with the city of Johannesburg. And if there are any areas that have got localized problem, and if we can help those areas from bulk point of view, we'll rise to that. I also need to emphasize, we have a very good relationship with a working relationship with the city of Johannesburg, and it will continue to work together to resolve the issues that at any given time characterize water supply challenges in the city. Do you have financial problems, Renata? I think last week I did indicate that our debtors days are going the wrong way. Many years ago, we was to be paid on time on after 35 days. Our debtors days were sitting at 35, it's now sitting at 85. So we are getting paid, but we are getting paid late. And as I indicated, we have all these arrangements with most of the municipalities in terms of addressing that issue. So I think you will notice that when we launch our annual report, we have seen an increase in many KPIs, and the volumes of the water that we supply showed an upward trajectory. So I will not say we have a financial problem to an extent that we can't operate, we can't pump. But I think I need to emphasize that the issues of debtors days and late payment is a matter of concern. And as I indicated last week, it does affect our balance sheet in terms of expected credit loss. It's a matter that needs to be attended to, and then we are working with our municipalities to deal with it. Yes, the Depitso, the system is improving, but the system is critical. The system is stable. We were happy that we are able to store more water, so that when we have more water in the reservoirs, as the COO is indicating, those areas that need that pressure head in the reservoirs, that don't necessarily have additional storage from their side and the booster capability from their side, benefit from that. So as he indicated, is that areas such as South Hills, they have recovered because Klip Riversberg has improved, because consumption upstream has dropped. So if the consumption upstream drops, the water comes back, fills the reservoirs, and other areas that are dependent solely on our head then get benefit. We hope this will continue leading up to December, so that we have enough water throughout the festive season. But I think in part we are helped by cooler weather conditions that we have seen in this past week, and then when the consumption reduces because of the weather, and of course the interventions that the COO and the operations and the engineering and the maintenance teams in the municipalities have effected, then we have system improvement. I'm using the word critical but stable. It's stable because it's going the right direction. We will be happy if we can store more water at the levels of 60% storage, so that when we get into summer, high consumption areas, or high consumption periods rather, and in its effect, there will be high consumption, but if the consumption shoots what we are able to put into the system, the maximum that you can put, and that consumption is even more than the water that we store in the system, you'll have a challenge at any. So summer, yes, summer is not a new thing, but we have seen with hotter and drier conditions that the consumption this summer and the consumption the other summer with the population growth is a lot more. And then we are chasing it. And I believe that the water that we're putting in the system is sufficient. But if the consumption, I mean, there is no unlimited purification capability. There's no unlimited resources and number of dams that can carry an unlimited consumption of water. At 5,000, that is the maximum. And we store that water. If the reservoirs were full at all time, we will have about 6,000 in the reservoirs. So if that consumption stays normal at an average capita consumption of 170, like everybody in the world, then we will not have a problem. So what we are seeing is that the summers have become drier and hotter. The consumptions has become more and more, and have shot the maximum capacity. What also, as it has been indicated, we have seen, and by consumption, we're not meaning households, individual water drinking, but we are seeing, according to the Department of Water and Sanitation, that consumption includes that non-revenue water, includes those physical losses. They are getting bigger. And then as you have, I think, Peter Kwena, you indicated that the numbers as you speak, the physical losses are at 33%, the non-revenue is 42%. So when you pumping at maximum, and then territory goes to physical losses, and the consumption on the other end increases, it will not matter how much water you push. And as I indicated, just in August now, we have added additional purification capacity of 150. We are going to have 450 to meet the demands. But if the water is lost, the water will just run to the ground and will not reach high-lying areas. So what you will invariably see is that all the areas, at any given time, even when the consumption is high, low-lying areas always get water. So what happens is that high-lying areas then struggle. Why? Because consumption in the low-lying areas, after having taken all the water in the reservoirs, there is no booster stations, there's no booster capability to take water in the high-lying area. So you have to manage your demand and supply accordingly. There is no unlimited dams. We are pumping at max. The consumption has to be at max. And then we are pumping into the reservoirs. So if we take out everything in the reservoirs and consumption, including the leaks and everything, is more than what we pump at 5%, you will have those challenges. What can you do? In the medium and long term, we have to attend to the leaks at the municipal space, and we have to equitably share the water. The question is, Renata, what are you doing about it? As I indicated, and we will continue to do so, we have established a project called Project 1600. 1600 is the license at which, or the abstraction at which, the Department of Water and Sanitation wants us to take water. In this meeting, we sit with our municipalities. We go through water conservation and demand management measures and work out the modalities with the municipalities in terms of how to reduce and improve the leaks. All the municipalities have got water conservation, demand management strategy. And I think all of us as water practitioners, we want a bigger allocation towards the space to deal with the physical losses. So yes, you are right. These numbers, as the department indicates, are in the distribution network, but we are working with them. Because our view is that as much as is their problem, is our problem, because what will happen is, like one of the municipalities, if you start losing 60% of the water that we give you, and then we have non-revenue water of 70%, they just stop paying us. So it is in our best interest that the water that we supplied to them is not lost. Really, they generate revenue with that water, because if they don't, they will not be able to pay us, and it will affect us. So yes, it is happening in municipalities, but if you like, it's much our problem than also similarly their problems. So Project 1600, that is driven by Rainwater, is a platform that we have created to deal with those physical leaks. There was also a question around the city has taken resolution to look at various sources of water. I think we welcome that. I think as a country, we have overly exploited the surface water. Any intervention to assist, to alleviate the pressures that we are seeing on the surface water, because as I indicate, the system input volume, the yield that we can get from the water that we abstract in from the department is about 1,500 million cubic meters per annum. We are taking 1,700. So those dams can only give us up to that amount, the integrated Vaal River system. So if we can exploit other sources of water, including groundwater, we are also doing that. In fact, I hosted the department here. They are putting together standard operating procedure where we can also exploit other sources of water in the entire value chain. As you know, Tshwane has got their own purification capability as well. And then, yes, I think for us, any effort to assist to deal with the issues of demand and meeting the supply and the requirements of various municipalities is welcome. Is part of finding solutions to the challenges that we have. So we welcome that, and I think it will really assist in the entire value chain to look at various ways of dealing with water supply. But for us, we will continue pumping at maximum. We will work with our municipalities to store more water in the reservoirs, attend to high consuming meters so that we bring the water back, and then we help other areas. So what is the prognosis for summer or December? I think really it's a function of the issues that we have mentioned. Cooler temperatures drop the consumption, and the interventions that we are doing at an operational level to save water into the reservoir. If you like, for me, if we can get around 60% storage, December and beyond will be a walk in the park. And then if we continuously manage the water that we have in the system, bring it back, watch meters on a daily basis that are consuming too much, make sure that they are consuming at an appropriate level, it will certainly be an issue. Again, the question is money an issue? Well, money will always be an issue. For us, and really, there's nothing to hide, and I think we've been very frank about the need to have us paid on time, and so that we are able to redeem some of the bonds, so that we are able to buy electricity, so that we are able to pay salaries and chemicals and keep the system going. Unfortunately, as Rainwater, we don't have any allocation from the fiscals, no bailouts, nothing. So it is important that we watch those numbers closely. At this point in time, we don't have any municipality that we are restricting because they're not paying us. It's a continuous engagement. And in Mfuleni, we have established what we call a special purpose vehicle, where we are now going into the distribution network, jointly and collectively addressing the issues of non-revenue, fixing the leaks, upgrading their infrastructure, and collecting the money into a central point, so that money is ring-fenced for water supply and sanitation issues. So, as I indicate, we are positioning ourselves at all material time to be part of the solutions that are characterizing water supply challenges at any part of our value chain. If anything, CEO, I've left out, or you want to stress that?
Thank you, CE. Before I even move to colleagues who are online, I just want to check with the journalists who asked questions. You have been answered adequately. Are you happy with the responses? Yes. Okay, we can move on. The colleagues, I don't know, can you please advise if we have questions online, if anybody has raised their hand, or under the Q&A if we do have questions? No, we don't have questions. Right. Okay. Clearly the briefing was straight to the point. Just last round in the boardroom here, do we still have questions? Thank you.
I can speak. I'm not sure if you have any data. Sorry, it's Kirsten from Wilson Sanitation Africa. Do you have any data on how, like, say, for instance, 5 years ago to now, how has the population that you serve, how much has it grown? Obviously, you need to amalgamate the municipality. Do you have any idea? That's obviously a huge contributing factor to growth.
Okay. Got that. Any other question? So this will be the last round of questions, and then I'll give CE an opportunity, or COO, to come in, and then we'll close from there.
Thank you. Did you say your name is Kosi? Okay, Kosi, welcome. Yeah, I think I haven't. In fact, I was looking at the numbers yesterday, and the latest stats figures, and we have computed. I don't know, 5 years ago. I'll have a look at that, but we've computed that in our area of operation there's about 17 million people. This will include all the metros in the city and parts of Free State, a portion of Mwate and the Metsimaholo, every parts of Rustenburg, few municipalities in Mpumalanga. We're anticipating, and the numbers are indicating there's about 17 million people in our area. And then I think if you look at the volumes, I calculated at about maybe 300 liters per capita per day. And then if you take about maybe 30% of that, you're taking about 60. I do not think, I think there is an impact on the population, but I don't think it has brought us so low and lower than an average capita per consumption and in the world. So and then of course we this worries our minister a great deal, that also if we may not be calculating the numbers correctly from stats, but we have mushrooming of neighborhoods that do not fall within the spatial planning of municipalities, and that water must come somewhere. So it could be coming from the network and supplying some of the informal settlements. It may not be metered and maybe part of non-revenue water. It's indicating that is the problem. But if you really take the stats SA numbers that we have as at now, and then you compute that, I will not say the biggest issue is population growth. It is a challenge, and it's growing fast, and it is also not controlled. So it does have an impact. But in terms of the numbers, it shows that if we deal with certain issues, as I indicated around non-revenue water, there would probably be enough water in the system. But I don't want you to leave this platform saying there's no concern. We are concerned. And then I remember having a discussion with the CEO and the minister to say, colleagues, are we sure we understand all these informal settlements that we are giving water? And then we are seeing that piped water is also increasing. It's not impacting on the population growth. So we are keeping a close eye on it. And then, of course, year on year, it has been increasing in our area of operation, particularly in Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, and the city of Johannesburg.
Thank you, CE. If there are no more questions, we need to close the session. Let me take the opportunity to thank all the journalists and reporters who are here, who are also online. As we made a promise last week that we are going to be hosting these sessions, I think every week we're going to have a briefing session. So we will communicate and we'll share the link, and we'll appreciate if the media house can really RSVP indicate their interest so that we can share the link with them. So if there are no further questions, CECO, I can close the session and say thank you very much. We'll see you again next week.